Welcome to Classic Storytime Hub. Tonight, we unravel The Terrible Old Man by H.P. Lovecraft, retold in English with a fresh, suspenseful twist. A reimagined narration that breathes new life into one of Lovecraft's earliest tales of mystery and dread.
Angelo Ricci, Joe Chazanek, and Manuel Silva had a plan, one that led them straight to the doorstep of the terrible old man. He lived alone in a crumbling house on Water Street, its windows clouded with dust, its walls leaning toward the sea. The townsfolk whispered that he was both fabulously wealthy and frail beyond measure, a tempting combination for men whose trade was theft. Kingsport's people spoke of him with unease. They claimed he had once captained mighty clipper ships bound for the East Indies, though he was now so ancient that no one could recall him in his youth. His silence was legendary, his true name forgotten. In the yard, twisted trees cast shadows over a bizarre collection of painted stones, arranged like idols from some forgotten temple. Children dared not linger there, frightened by the sight of his long white beard and piercing eyes. Yet it was not the stones that unsettled the grown folk, it was what lay inside. Behind those grimy panes, they said, stood a bare wooden table lined with strange bottles. Each bottle held a pendulum of lead, swaying on its string. The old man spoke to them in hushed tones, calling them by names: Jack, Scarface, Long Tom, Spanish Joe, Peters, Mate Ellis. And when he spoke, the pendulum stirred, as if answering back. Those who had glimpsed these conversations never returned for a second look. But Ricci, Chazanek, and Silva were not of Kingsport blood. Outsiders, hardened and reckless, they saw only a feeble relic leaning on his cane, his trembling hands betraying weakness. To them, the terrible old man was no more than a helpless graybeard, ripe for plunder. In their own way, Ricci, Chazanek, and Silva almost pitied the old man, lonely, despised, and barked at by every dog in town. Yet pity has little weight against greed. To men of their profession, there was a peculiar thrill in targeting a frail relic who carried no bank account, and who paid for his meager supplies with Spanish coins older than the nation itself. The night of April 11th was chosen. Ricci and Silva would confront the old sailor directly, while Chazanek waited in a covered car on Ship Street, ready to whisk away the spoils. Their plan was simple, quiet, discreet, and designed to leave no trace should the police appear. Separately they set out, shadows slipping through Kingsport's streets. Ricci and Silva met at the gate of the weathered house on Water Street. The moonlight unsettled them as it glimmered over the painted stones in the yard, casting eerie shapes among the twisted branches. But superstition was a luxury thieves could not afford. They knew the task ahead might be unpleasant. Old sea captains were notoriously stubborn, and this one was ancient beyond memory. Still, he was weak, and there were two of them. They had long practice in forcing words from unwilling lips, and the cries of a feeble man could be easily smothered. As they crept closer, they heard him inside, murmuring to his strange bottles, pendulums swaying as if in answer. Masks slipped over their faces, and with a mock politeness they rapped on the rotting oak door. Meanwhile, Shawnek waited in the car by the rear gate, restless and uneasy. He was softer than his companions, and the shrill screams that pierced the night gnawed at his conscience. Hadn't he begged them to be gentle with the pitiful old mariner? Shonek sat in the shadows, nerves fraying with every tick of his watch. The ivy-clad wall loomed above him, the narrow oaken gate silent and still. He wondered, had the old man perished before giving up his secret? Was a longer search underway inside that dreadful house? The darkness pressed in, and he hated waiting there alone. Then came the sound, a faint shuffle, the tap of footsteps, the scrape of fingers at the latch. The heavy door creaked open, spilling pale light from the lone street lamp. Shonek leaned forward, straining to see the burden his companions carried out. But what emerged was not Ricci or Silva. It was the terrible old man himself, leaning calmly on his knotted cane, his mouth twisted into a ghastly smile. For the first time, Shonek noticed the color of his eyes, an unnatural gleaming yellow. That spring and summer, Kingsport buzzed with whispers. The tide had delivered 3 bodies to the shore, mutilated beyond recognition, slashed as though by cutlasses, trampled as if by merciless boots. A deserted motor car in Ship Street, strange cries in the night, these were the fragments of gossip that fed the town's imagination. Yet through it all, the terrible old man remained indifferent. Reserved by nature, and doubly so in his age, he paid no heed to idle chatter. After all, a sea captain who had weathered storms and battles in forgotten oceans had seen horrors far greater than anything Kingsport could conjure.
And thus the story ended. If you liked this journey into the worlds of classic literature, do not forget to support us by subscribing so we can tell you more. And hey, if there's a classic tale you'd love to hear told in this suspenseful style, drop its name in the comments below. Your suggestion might be our next chilling adventure.